Good morning, everyone. Today I want to make a quick tier list, or maybe not so quick tier list, of all of the point and click games that I've played. On this list, there are some games that I haven't played yet, or I'm currently playing. This is so people can use my tier maker template if they want to make their own ranking of these games, which would be fun to see everyone else's opinion. I'm going to be ranking these games with a couple criteria in mind. These are just what I value in a point and click game. Sorry. Which is the length, how much bang for your buck did you get? How much value did you get out of, buying the game? It's pretty simple. Generally, I rank longer games better than shorter games because there's more content, and more content's always good in a game. Puzzles. Puzzles are important to pretty much everyone playing a point and click game. You can't really have a point and click game with bad puzzles, otherwise it just won't be a fun game. Because that is the main mechanic of the game. Characters and story are very important to me in a point and click game. I know some people might disagree and say that the puzzles are the most important thing, and to an extent they are, but I really value a game with a very thought out story and characters. It helps it be a more immersive experience, in my opinion. The next is art. I think that the artwork and stylisticness, I guess, of point and clicks definitely has a lot of value. I appreciate really well styled or thematic games. I think it adds a lot. Makes it feel a lot more enjoyable, and I appreciate that a lot. So that is definitely going to have a factor. Voice acting also kind of ties into that. And that's pretty much it. Those are the big criteria that I'm going to be, comparing these games using. So yeah, let's get into it. So first up, we have Botanicula. Botanicula, I don't think is that well known of a point and click. I don't think. I mean, it's a more modern game. It's new. It's not one of the old school games. I got about 2 to 3 hours, I think, on Steam for this game. So length is quite short. Regarding the puzzles, there are not really too many puzzles, I'd say, in this game. It's much more of like an adventure type game where you're going around, you're playing these little like garden folks, these little garden characters. You're the group of them, and you're running away from the dark yarn evil guys, or whatever they are. It's a very cute game. The artwork is good. The soundtrack is very good. The OST for this game is phenomenal. One of the best out of the games on this list. Excuse me. And bonus point is that the band that does the music for this game is actually a band that one of my friends listens to, just casually. Not even related to this OST. They're just a good band. So yeah, like I said, bonus points for this game for that. The sound design is good. Overall, I have no major complaints about this game. I'm putting it right in B tier. Up next, we have Day of the Tentacle. If you've played point and clicks, you've probably played Day of the Tentacle. It is one of the staples of, the foundation of Day of the Tentacle. I'm pretty sure Maniac Mansion, which this game was based off of, was the first point and click, ever to exist. I might be wrong about that, but I'm at least pretty sure that's the case. So if nothing else, it definitely had an influence on every other game on this list. Regarding the puzzles, good puzzles, good. Oh, the length is long. This is a long form game, or at least what I would determine, or at least what I would call a long form game. Which probably above the 10-hour mark is what I consider a long form game, maybe above the 12-hour mark. Medium form, I would say from like 6 to 12-ish, 6 to 10, and then short form, I'd say, is anything less than 6. But yeah, long form game for the Day of the Tentacle, so you're getting a lot of content. The puzzles are fair for the most part. Oh, this would be a good time to talk about what I consider a fair game or a fair puzzle. When I'm playing a point and click and I think a puzzle is fair, that means I think that you can solve it with logic and the tools that the game provides to you. Examples of things that you would need to solve an unfair puzzle are 3 things. One, you just need to get lucky and essentially make a random guess on something that would work with no logic required. And it works, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll take it. That's one of the options of getting past an unfair puzzle, in my opinion. The other is to using all of your items on every single thing in your environment. So literally just going through every single option you have available to you until you get something that works, which is very much not fun. But that's another way to solve an unfair puzzle. The third way is to obviously just look at a walkthrough or a guide. Those three things I would consider. If you have to do one of those three things, you have an unfair game or an unfair puzzle, which I don't like in games. Day of the Tentacle has mostly fair puzzles. I don't think I needed to look anything up for this game. I don't think I needed to like click on everything. I think for the most part, I solved everything with logic. So yeah, sorry for that rant, but thought I should get that baseline, set forth for the future. The characters are fine. You know, you have Hoagie, Laverne, and whatever the nerd's name is. I forget his name. Shoot. Ellie? No, it's not. I don't remember his name. But I mean, they're good characters. They're like classic, silly point-and-click characters. The story is pretty silly. The game in general is kind of like a comedic, like silly, goofy game, which is fine. It's a good game. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I mean, it's everything you could really ask for in just a old school basic point and click. Obviously, I played the remastered, but nothing wrong with it. I mean, it has great puzzles. It's long. Everything else is pretty, in my opinion. I just don't appreciate as much the goofy, silly style games. That could just be my opinion. See, and I say that, and I put in A tier because I think a lot of people would put this in S as one of the best of all time. I'm not putting it there because the vibe is just not my style, but obviously it's a phenomenal game and stands the test of time. Wow, I'm already almost at 7 minutes for this. I'm gonna need to speed this up a little bit, guys. Up next we have The Dig. The Dig, I think, is a pretty popular older game. Very, very unique. I don't know if unique's the right word. You're playing as an archaeologist group that basically uncovers this alien whole mystery, alien civilization, and you're basically, the whole game is figuring out their history and how to escape and get back home. Fantastic story. I absolutely love the story. It was very well integrated into the gameplay. The puzzles were all fair. It was a challenging game, a long form game too. I think this was probably like a 13-hour game-ish, if I had to guess. This was one of the first point and clicks I actually ever played, so probably not the best early point and click because of how hard it was and how long it was. But I very, very much enjoyed it. I think if you enjoy point and clicks, you should play this game. I think it's one of the best ever made. Characters were good. I mean, kind of forgettable. It's more just focused on the story and the mystery of everything. The artwork and vibe was incredible. You felt very immersed in the scenes, and in the settings. Yeah, and like I said, the puzzles were all very good. They were all fair and challenging, which is hard to do. It's hard to make a challenging puzzle that doesn't get unfair. But so yeah, this is gonna be my first S tier game. It's a phenomenal game. Would recommend checking it out. All right, up next we have Genesis Noir. Okay, so first of all, Genesis Noir is probably the least point and click game on this list. It really is more of a visual experience, as my friend described it. Oh, and as a note, I mostly play these games with one of my friends. We'll kind of, do it in tandem, where one of us is playing, the other one's just helping out, and so we'll switch back and forth. Genesis Noir isn't really a point and click game. You're playing as this noir detective guy, in kind of like this ethereal setting where you're in a love triangle with Golden Boy and whatever the woman's name is. It's a very, very stylized game. It's very pretty. I just personally did not like it at all. It felt like I was just doing nothing. I was just essentially clicking through one big long cutscene. Which is, some people, if that's the style of game you like and you like experiencing a story, albeit a very abstract story, which didn't really have too much that was concrete. It was more, everything was open to interpretation. You'd probably love this game if that's your style. Personally, it's not what I really like in a point and click. I like solving puzzles and experiencing like a pretty laid out story and bonding with characters, but that's just my opinion. So unfortunately, I'm putting this in the C tier. It's not a bad game, just in my opinion, it's not what I appreciate. Up next, we have Grim Fandango. Now, Grim Fandango is another classic. I believe I also played the remastered version of this. You're playing as Manuel Calavera. He is basically a lawyer of the, or maybe not a lawyer, like a real estate agent of the dead. The whole game is stylized for like Dia de los Muertos in, I think it's Spanish culture. But it is a beautiful game. It's interesting at first when you first launch this game because it is 3D, at least the remastered is the version that I played, which can set some people off, but once you get used to it, it's fantastic. Manny is one of the best characters in any point and click. He has a lot of depth, and he has, at some points, the rule of cool. He's just a really very, very well done character. The game is incredibly stylistic. The artwork is good. I would say I appreciate the like the theme or the vibes of the artwork more than the actual like art style, if that makes sense. I like the setting, the theme, the environment more than it's like a very impressive art work, I guess. I'm sorry if I explained that poorly. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic game. The story is incredible. I think I was literally on the verge of tears at the end of this game. And I don't think I could say that for really any of these other games. It was a very emotional game towards the end. You really bond with Manny. The puzzles are all fair. It is a hard game, I will say. Me and my friend and I put a lot of time into this game. I think it took us 17 hours, which is one of the longest games on this list, if not the longest. And I know a lot of people who gave up pretty early on in this game because it's just simply so difficult. So I don't. You could take that either way. I appreciated it because I like challenging puzzles that are fair, and I thought everything in this game was fair. I don't think we had to look up a guide or anything at any point. But yeah, overall, I thought this was a fantastic game. This is gonna be an S tier game, the highest so far. I absolutely loved Grim Fandango, and I'd recommend even non-point and click enjoyers to try it out. All right, up next we have Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, another older game. You're playing as Indiana Jones, and you have to uncover the fate of Atlantis. That's funny, you don't actually deal with Atlantis until like halfway through the game, which is interesting. Maybe even more than that. The puzzles are great in this game, although it is worth noting that you can play this game in two different ways. I'm pretty sure you can opt to fight. Yeah, like fist fight a lot more. My friend and I didn't. We solved it through the puzzle route, but I'm pretty sure you can like fight and get XP, and I don't know, we didn't do that, so I can't speak too much to it, but yeah, you're playing as Indiana Jones, and you have to work with this scientist lady, if I remember correctly, and you guys find like an alien race or whatever in Atlantis, something like that. Similar plot to The Dig. They're pretty similar games, I would say, so it's no surprise I'm going to put this in S tier. Characters are fine, the story is incredible, the puzzles are fantastic, and it's a long form game. I mean, everything. Nothing exceptionally unique or like special to put in the S tier, it has everything. It's a good length, great puzzles, decent characters, fantastic story, good artwork, the scenes are good. I think the voice acting it had voice acting as well, which is always a plus. So if you haven't played it yet, go out and play it. It's a fantastic game. And I think they're even making a newer one, or there's a movie or something. I saw something on some social media about it. But yeah, we have another S tier. King's Quest. Now this actually might be the oldest game on the list. And actually, pardon me 1 second. Sorry, I had to grab my cat. I don't know what she was getting into. King's Quest, like I was saying, might be the oldest game on this list. At least the first one. I don't really remember if it even came before like the original Kyrandia or Maniac Mansion. I'm not sure. But I have not played through many of the King's Quest games. I my friend and I played a little bit of the first one, and it's not really a point and click. At least how far we got into it. It's more of a choose your own text adventure, kind of, where like you actually type in the commands that your character will do. So, for example, if there's like a piano or something, you can click on the piano and then type like play or like look at or sit near. And so it was very, very abstract, and kind of overwhelming, to be honest. Not exactly what we were looking for in a game. Oh, bye, kitten. But we did not get very far into it, so I'll put it here. We probably played a couple hours of it, but not enough to give a full opinion on it. Legend of Kyrandia. I guess I'll do the first one first. Legend of Kyrandia 1, probably... you play as Brandon. I think you're the son of some grand wizard or god or something or other, and you're going around. You're exploring to stop this evil clown Malcolm. And it's a good game. Fantastic soundtrack. Beautiful art. Beautiful scenes. The game is bad in my opinion, and I'll explain why. The puzzles are the most unfair out of any point and click I've ever played, probably out of any game I've ever played. And I'll further explain. This is probably the only game you can and will soft lock yourself very, very easily. I don't remember exactly, but on the wiki, if you're following a guide, many times throughout the guide, it'll say, oh, and don't use this item because you'll soft lock yourself. Don't go here because you'll soft lock yourself. Don't forget this because you'll soft lock yourself. So in my opinion, that does not make a good game. My friend and I had to literally restart our save several times because we just got soft locked and had to completely restart. And yeah, the puzzles are just indescribably difficult. If you were to legitimately play this game, I think it would take you probably months legitimately to get through everything and figure everything out, because it is just it is that abstract or convoluted of a game, I guess. So I'm gonna put it in D tier, unfortunately. I love the soundtrack, I love the art, but yeah, the puzzles in the game is just too unplayable for me to put it any higher. And unfortunately, I think it's because that it's just a product of being a very old game. Okay. Up next, we have Kyrandia Book 2. Kyrandia Book 2, I think, was definitely a huge step up from Book 1. It kept the same atmosphere and great soundtrack, great visuals, great art, great scenes as the first book, but made the puzzles much, much easier. They're actually solvable by people, and as a matter of fact, I think they are pretty fair and fun to solve. They make sense, and you can feasibly solve them. You play as, I forget what, it's Chrysanthemum or Crystalia or something. You play as the chemist that Brandon meets in Book 1, and you're going on this fantastical adventure to, I think, stop the clown again. I could be wrong about that. Shoot, I don't remember her name. Esmeralda? I don't remember. I think this is a very big step up from Book 1. It's a little bit shorter, I would say. It's hard to determine the length of the first Kyrandia because I don't know if anyone's playing it legitimately throughout the whole thing. But Kyrandia 2, I think, took us 5 hours maybe. It's a great experience. This goes in the B tier, right near Botanicula. Oh, I will mention that these tiers are ordered. So Grim Fandango is better than the Dig, is better than Indiana. Botanicula is better than Kyrandia, etc. But yeah, whoops. Yeah, so Kyrandia, solid B tier game. I'd recommend playing. Oh, the problem is you probably want the context from the first one to do the second one. Yeah, I don't know. If you're committed, Kyrandia 2 is a good game to experience. At least listen to the soundtrack. Do yourself that favor. Alrighty, up next we have Loom, another old game. You play as, I believe you're an apprentice to the Loom Weavers or something like that. You have to go out and fix the loom or find the last bird or something or other. I don't really remember the plot. I do remember, though, that this is one of the few games with a gimmick. Point and clicks usually don't have gimmicks. Usually you just, believe it or not, point and click. But Loom actually had another mechanic where you play you perform spells on like this wand, or I think it was a flute or something, where you like play notes and you play basically spells that you find throughout the game. It sounds convoluted and it sounds kind of gimmicky, but it is a fantastic mechanic that they executed very, very well. And it's an old game too, so that was probably pretty out there at the time. The spells make sense. You generally aren't just sitting there pointlessly playing your wand or flute, whatever it is, I don't remember, to try and solve a problem. Usually you know, oh, there's this problem. I have a spell for this. Let's use this spell. And it feels very good to play. The puzzles are fair. Nothing seemed too unfair, and that sense of the game was very good. The artwork was incredible. I believe the music was even very good too. The characters were fine. You play a little kind of like hooded wizard looking type guy. But yeah, the art is great. The scenery is great. Yeah, so I'm gonna put Loom in the A tier. And it's a pretty short game too, which is worth noting. I think maybe 5 hours, 6 hours if I had to guess. As opposed to the other S and A tier games, which is Grim Fandango is long, Dig is very long, Fate of Atlantis is long, and Day of the Tentacle is long. Loom is the only one up here so far that is a short form game, which is worth noting. If you are a fan of the point and clicks, you absolutely need to play Loom. Even if you're not, Loom is a great experience, just for a gamer in general. Alrighty, up next we have Machinarium. Now, Machinarium is a newer game. I think it recently got a lot of traction on Steam. For whatever reason, maybe you've seen it or played it. But it is a cute, good, short form point and click. You play as this little robot. I don't think there are words or anything in this game. It's all symbols and interpretations, but you play as this robot, and I think you're trying to make your way out of the Machinarium junkyard. Maybe you're trying to find your like lover or something, your significant other. I'm not sure. Or you're trying to escape. I think that's what it is. It is a very cute game. The artwork is very unique. It's very good. There's no voice acting really or anything. I think there's like sounds from maybe voice actors, if I remember correctly. I think some of the puzzles were a little unfair, although I played this game very early on into my point and click tenure, so maybe I wasn't as proficient as I am with difficult puzzles as I am now. But it was a good game. Short form, nothing that really set it out or set it apart from the rest of these point and clicks, so I have it in high B tier. It's a good game. It is worth the money that it costs, and it is a good experience. Some people I could see people really enjoying this game. It's a very pretty game, and the puzzles are more or less good and fair. But I don't know, it just didn't feel that special to me. It's just a good game. Alrighty, up next we have the big one, Monkey Island. And I think this is the first one, this is the second, this is the sixth. First, Monkey Island. Now, this is probably the pioneer of all of the other games on this list. I don't think you've probably heard of a point and click game if you haven't at least heard of or seen or played Monkey Island. It is the there's a Goliath of these games. I don't think it's the earliest, but definitely the biggest. It might be the earliest. I'm not quite sure about that. I played the remastered version for the first game, and I think it was probably one of the first or second point and clicks I ever played. And yeah, you play as Guybrush Threepwood, and you're trying to, be the best pirate or something, or the best sailor. You got to find the One Piece or something or other. I don't quite remember the story. You're trying to find your girlfriend or something. No, I don't think it's a girlfriend or woman related. I think you're just trying to like become the best pirate. Now, this might be a hot take. I don't like this game, really. I feel like normally people would insta put this in the S tier. They'd say it's the GOAT. I'd say it's like the father of all point and clicks. How could you not put an S tier? I think it is very overhyped. I think it is. The puzzles are horribly unfair. I mean, it's also a product of it being an old game, so it's hard to really rate it according to other games that were made 30 years later, 40 years later. But it does not feel fun to play. Sometimes it just feels like literally a guessing game. You have to use all of your items on your environment to figure out what the hell's you need to do. Some people love that. Some people love the silliness of like, oh, you have to use your magnet on the I don't know, the pirate and pull out his gold tooth so he lets you borrow his ship or something. Like, it just that was probably a terrible example, but like the puzzles are pretty nonsensical, and some people love that. I have some friends that absolutely love Monkey Island because of how silly and outrageous the puzzles are. I personally just don't like that. I've grown to like more straightforward games, puzzles that are challenging but logical, puzzles that don't make you go, "Oh my god, that was so dumb," after you solve them. So for that reason, I'm putting it in the B tier. And I know some people might come in my throat, but that's where I'm going to put it. I think it was fine. I would not play it again, and I am only putting it this high because it's, yeah, the forefather of probably every game on this list. Now, Monkey Island 2 is a different story. You're playing as an older Guybrush Threepwood, and again, I don't really remember the plot. I apologize, but it is a lot more fair of a game. The puzzles, I think we were actually able to solve all of them without looking anything up or doing any of the unfair puzzle solving methods, like looking at a guide, randomly guessing, or using all of our items on everything in the environment. I don't think we needed to do that for Monkey Island 2. It seemed like they still had like the goofy kind of crazy puzzles, but after playing Monkey Island 1, you kind of get the hang of the types of solutions they're looking for. The characters are fine. I mean, they're funny. They're mostly there for comedic effect. I don't think anyone is a really like developed or deep character for that matter. But yeah, so for that reason, I'm actually gonna put Monkey Island in the A tier, or Monkey Island 2 in the A tier. I think it still retains its status as part of the, greatest series of all time for point and clicks. Maybe greatest isn't the right word, but most influential. Sorry, I'll zoom in a little bit. I know it's a bit late in the video to do that, but here we are. I think it still has most of its legacy factor that Monkey Island 1 does, but it improved on the puzzles, which was the biggest downfall of Monkey Island 1. The story is whatever. There's no... I mean, you're mostly just playing it for the fun of playing a goofy, comedy-focused point and click, but the puzzles feel pretty good. And Monkey Island 6, I know this game just came out maybe like a month ago at the time of recording this, maybe like 2 months ago. I have not played it yet, actually. It's on my list to play. I don't know if I'm going to play through... I've only played 1 and 2. I don't know if I'm going to do 3, 4, and 5 before I do 6. I might just play 6. I don't know. I might have to ask around to see what people think about that. I need to play 3, 4, and 5, but yeah, I know. I've heard it's a good game. I mean, it got huge traction, and definitely boosted up the point and click interest again, which is great. All right, next we have Paradigm, which I don't think this is a popular game. I don't know how I even heard about this, but it is a, I don't want to say trashy, maybe like raunchy, Russian, I think, indie point and click game. It's very comedy focused. It's kind of a meme game. You play as this like kind of disfigured guy. I think his name is Paradigm, and he wants to be like a rapper. And you're trying to like take down this corporation that the Sloth runs or something. Something like that. If you like these goofy style games that are like full of memes, similar to like how Monkey Island is, you'd probably love Paradigm. I believe the puzzles were pretty easy. Most of them made sense. And it was pretty straightforward. Hang on, this is bugging me. Perfect. But I did not really enjoy it. The characters kind of weren't great. The voice acting was good. I'll give them that. The art was fine. I mean, nothing crazy. But I mean, it was, yeah, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I was kind of glad to be done with it. But that being said, if this was your style of game, you would have loved it. If you loved these meme games, it was pretty funny. Just not exactly what I'm looking for in a point and click. I guess it depends on the mood you're in. But yeah, I mean, also, disclosure, I enjoyed every single one of these games, except for maybe one we'll get to later. I think they're all great games, and everyone should play all of these. I am just comparing them comparing them to each other. So obviously some are going to be better than others. So like even games in the D tier, I think are worth playing, and I value and appreciate. It's just they don't compare to the higher tier games. That's all I want to say. Up next, we have Primordia. Bad game, put in the D tier. No, I'm kidding. If you know me, this is probably one of my favorite games of all time, even outside of the point-and-click genre, which I am not that well versed in, but Primordia is by far the best point-and-click game I've ever played. Probably one of the greatest games I have ever played. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I'm gonna do about 5 minutes of kneeling at the feet of Wagedai and Wormwind for a sec. But so please excuse me while I do that. Primordia, you play as Horatio Nullbuilt. I believe that's his full name. And you are accompanied by Crispin, your little floating robot with a maglev unit. And you are tasked with kind of unraveling the mystery of this dystopian, futuristic, robot-filled world. There's a ton of lore that goes on with the game. The story is absolutely incredible. You slowly learn more and more about the world as you go, which I think is hard to do, and about the characters, the main characters even, which I think is impressive to do just in games in general, in media in general. I think it is fascinating when you build a character that the audience can appreciate and then change fundamental understandings of the character and retain that appreciation of the character. I think it is incredibly well done in Primordia. The main character is the best character in any point and click, hands down. And other characters in the game are phenomenally built as well. But Horatio is just he is exceptionally done. His character is incredibly deep and beautifully portrayed. I forget what the voice actor's name. He does a fantastic job. I should look this up really quick. He's the same actor that does the older guy in Bastion. Horatio Nullbuilt voice actor. Logan Cunningham. Yeah, his performance in this game is exceptional. The artwork is unbelievable. The artwork is unbelievably well done. It is a beautiful game. The environments that they paint and the characters and all of the artwork is stylized so well and done incredibly well. It is a beautiful game, even though that's not the vibe it's going for. It is beautiful in its own right. Metropole is a fantastically done city. The characters, like I said, are exceptional. The length is fantastic. I think it's about a 8 to 9 hour game. I've replayed it a couple times, so my hours in Steam are a little bit not a good representation. And the puzzles are very well done in my opinion too. They are fair. They are difficult at times, not overly difficult, but just difficult enough where you feel satisfied doing them. They all make sense. You can solve them all logically. Perfect amount of items. You're not overwhelmed, and you don't only have like one or two that you keep reusing. I think Primordia is exceptionally well done. I think that concludes my rant for now. If you want to hear me talk more about Primordia, let me know. The more I talk about it, the more you'll find that I appreciate it. And you know what? If there was one game that I think deserved to be above the S tier, I think it would be Primordia. That's how much I appreciate this game. I'm sounding like a big Wagedai, shill or sponsored by Wagedai right now. I am not. I just seriously think it's a testament to how good I think this game is. And you know what? As a matter of fact, I'm going to do this. Because I think this game is deserving of it. And then I promise, guys, I'm done talking about Primordia. But yeah, I think it's that good of a game. Moving on, we have the Red Strings Club. This game we just started playing. We're about 2 hours in, so we're not quite done with it. It also has a gimmick of you're a bartender and you're serving drinks. And it's pretty cool where the drinks actually tie into the dialogue that you have with the characters. It's a very dialogue-focused game, at least from what I can tell so far. Seems very good. I've heard good things. The atmosphere is great. The art's good too. Yeah. Not much more to say about that game. We're not done with it, so that's where it stays. Sam and Max Hit the Road. I know nothing about this game. It's just here because I saw it's one of like the top point and clicks of all time. So, yeah. Silent Age is next. This game is good. I think it was free on Steam or like $1 or something on Steam, and I just picked it up one day. It's a good game. You're playing as this character. I'm not sure if he even has a name. You're a janitor for some unnamed, again, I don't know if it's unnamed, but some big corporation. And everything seems kind of clouded in mystery. You go on this kind of, I don't want to say sci-fi, but you go on this adventure, and there's a bit with time travel, and it gets a little confusing, but the story is very good. I will say that's probably all it has going for it is the story. The puzzles I don't really remember being that engaging. I think it was mostly just you were clicking along and following what the game told you to do. Characters were fine. I don't really remember there being any other characters besides the main one. The story was good, and that's about all I can say about it. It's a good experience. It has a good story. If you appreciate a good story, you should absolutely play this game. I'm gonna put it in the C tier. It's not in the C tier for the same reason as the other two games. Paradigm and Genesis Noir I had kind of active problems with, where Silent Age, there just wasn't a whole lot going for it, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. All right, up next we have Beneath the Steel Sky, and I don't know if Beneath the Steel Sky is a popular game or not. I couldn't find that much on the internet about it, but I think I remember seeing something that it was like, very prominent in its era, or like it was a very popular game in its time back in the day. I'm not really sure. So I'm not really sure how many people know about this game, but this game I got, I'm pretty sure, for free on Steam one day and decided to play through it. Didn't expect very much. And it was a very, very good game. The story is fantastic. The characters were good too. The art was very good. I think there was voice acting. Yeah, I think there was voice acting. I think a couple of the puzzles I think were a bit unfair, but for the most part, the puzzles were good. It was a shorter game. I think we probably only had like 4 hours, I want to say. But it was a good game. I would highly recommend you to play this game if you are interested in point and clicks. It's a bit hard to get into at first, but it is an above average in all the categories, so it goes in the A tier. I could see moving it down into B. Is it closer to Loom or Machinarium? I'd say Loom. I'm not sure. I could go either way. I could be convinced to put it in either place. All right, here's the other Wajidai / Wormwood Studios game that I alluded to, Strangeland. While I think that this is not quite up to the same level as Primordia was, I still think it is a fantastic short form game. This game is a bit shorter than Primordia. I think we only clocked in like 5 hours for this game, where Primordia was more along like the 8 to 9. Sorry, my hair is a bit obnoxious right now. I apologize for that. Strangeland, you're playing a character. Again, I don't know if he has a name, or maybe like his name is something that you figure out. I don't really recall. In a very strange, in a very avant-garde, dark, gloomy, mysterious, spooky, gloomy, do I have enough adjectives here, world. The style is very unique. It instills certain emotions in you when you play it. It's shorter. The puzzles are fair. I think a couple of them are a bit tricky. We played this pretty recently, so it wasn't anything that we couldn't handle, I suppose, but the characters were phenomenal. The story was fantastic, and the art, of course, it's a Wajidai Wormwood game, and so it's exceptional. I think those are the producers of this game. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure Wormwood does Wormwood. Sorry, I keep saying Wormwind. Wormwood Studios does both Strangeland and Primordia. I don't know if they're both Wajidai. I'm not totally sure. But regardless, this is probably the best short form game besides Primordia, of course. I would highly recommend playing it. It is a very unique game. The puzzles are good enough, like I said. But the art, story, and characters are just phenomenal. Probably the best out of any short form game besides Primordia. Can you see a theme that I love these Wajidai games? All right, up next we have Thimbleweed Park. And I know if you're a modern point and click enjoyer, Thimbleweed is probably the game that, you associate with modern day point and clicks. You play as an assortment of characters. You play as the two cops, Dolores and Ransom the Clown. And you're basically trying to solve a murder primarily in Thimbleweed Park. And Ransom and Dolores are trying to do their own thing. Dolores wants to be a game developer, and Ransom wants to, get his clowning license back or something. And they ultimately all come together towards the end to do a common goal. And people revere this as the greatest current point and click. People I know very much like this game. Think it's the best. Would probably instantly put it into the S tier. For at least modern era games. Now, this might be another hot take, and please, again, don't come at my throat for this, but I think Thimbleweed is a bit overrated. And I can explain because it's a long form game, so you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I think probably the longest game, besides maybe Grim Fandango. I think I have 18 hours in this game on Steam, I want to say, so it's a long game. You definitely got to buckle in for it, and you'll get your money's worth. My problem with it, the puzzles were fine. I mean, they're nothing special. It's a bit abstract at times. Can get a little overwhelming with many characters because you obviously can control 4 characters at times. Oh, and you can even play as Dolores' dad Dolores' dad as well. So there's a lot going on. It is definitely a overwhelming game if you are not prepared for it. The art was fine. I mean, I don't think that is really why people praise this game. The voice acting was good. I will say the voice actors did a good job. But that's really all there is for me. I know a lot of people love the story. They think it's a very meta game. So a lot of breaking the fourth wall jokes, and there's a bit of goofiness with it being pretty meta, and especially the ending gets again very meta. What I mean by that is it's self-aware. The characters talk about how they're in a point and click game, stuff like that. You see that a lot in media or videos or games, stuff like that, where meta isn't as whoa, they know the characters know they're in a game as it maybe would be, as mind-blowing as it would be if it was your first couple times experiencing that trope. For that reason, it didn't blow my mind. I know a lot of people talk about how if you haven't experienced the end of Thimbleweed, you need to experience it. And so my hopes are pretty high. It was a good ending. Nothing that I would call it the best game of our the modern point and click era for. For that reason, I'm actually gonna put it in the B tier. And I know if people see this beneath Loom and Beneath the Steel Sky and Machinarium, it could be a hot take, but I'm standing by that. It is a bit overhyped. Okay, anyway, sorry, I talked that game to death. I apologize. Toonstruck, I haven't played yet. We started it for an hour-ish. It seems very strange. I don't know if we're gonna keep playing it, but we might. I know it's one of the more popular ones. Yeah, that's about all I can say about that one. Okay, up next we have Unavowed. Unavowed is an interesting one because the only thing that is concrete with that game is that you are a group of 4 people trying to uncover the mystery of this demon. And the reason why I said that so vaguely is because you can pick kind of your own story for this game. So when you launch the game, within 10 minutes of playing, they prompt you oh, who are you? And you can pick are you a cop? Are you a bartender? are you, I want to say librarian, but I don't think that's it. You can basically pick your origin story, which I assume, I've only played the game once. I only did the police officer route, but I assume that changes the feel of the game pretty drastically. Another big thing about this game is that you go on pretty discrete missions where, like, you'll go out, solve a mystery, come back to home base and unload, then go out again, come back after you solve the mystery, etc. You can decide who you bring along with the main character for each of those missions. So you can bring along any of the 4 like accompanying characters. You can bring, oh, let's see if I remember these. Eli, the fire wizard, Vicky, the police officer, oh god, shoot, I keep on saying Madonna, but I know that's it. Madonna, something like that. She's like an old, I think Middle Eastern warrior, and then Logan, who is like the a medium who can commune with the dead. You can take whatever combination of characters you want for each mission. So let's say you played a mission and you took I guess I shouldn't pick her. You took Eli and Vicky, where I took, I don't remember her name, the warrior lady and Logan. We would have experienced the level probably very differently, and the puzzles we solved, or the puzzles, we would have solved them in very different ways. So the game probably feels very differently based on how you played it. Now, I thought it was a good game. There weren't really puzzles. Everything was mostly dialogue or using your character's like powers to solve problems. The story was fantastic, and the characters were very good. I guess the art was good too. You know, I was originally gonna put this in the B tier, but I'm thinking it is an A tier game. Yeah, maybe I put it around here. Yeah, that feels right because of how much content there is in the game. Playing the game, I feel like I enjoyed playing Loom, Beneath the Steel Sky, maybe even like Machinarium more. Just like pure enjoyment of playing the game during like gameplay. But thinking about it in retrospect, how well done of a game Unavowed is, and like I have to put in the A tier at least for that, if that makes sense. Like, you just can't not account for the amount of content in this game and the amount of character depth and the story. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. It made sense to me, but I don't know how good I am at portraying my thoughts with words. All right, up next we have Dropsy. Dropsy is a very unique game. It is, and Unavowed is, I guess if you added up all the time you could play experiencing all the different routes and character combinations, you could probably put 30-40 hours into this game. But generally, I think a playthrough took us like 8 to 10. So I'd call it definitely a medium form game. Dropsy is hard to say for me, for length at least. Or I'll describe the game. You play as a clown, a weird kind of demented looking clown. I'm sorry, Dropsy. His name is Dropsy, and there's no text or words in this game. It is all symbols and noises, which is very interesting. The first like hour of this game was fascinating. It was really fun trying to decipher what these like icons meant. So like the NPCs would have like a little speech bubble, and it would be like a clown face and then a thumbs down, or like it would be like a shovel and then a thumbs up and like a smiley face, stuff like that. And so you got emotions and actions portrayed through like symbols as opposed to words, which was very interesting. Now I will say it got very, very old very quickly for me. I played this with a friend again, and I think he lasted a little bit longer on the uniqueness of this game, but I did not really like it after a couple or like maybe even just an hour. My problem with it was that it was very unclear, what you needed to do. The map was massive, so you can spend hours just walking around and you have no idea what your problem even is. Some character might say like, watch, sad face, and you're supposed to interpret that as like their brother needs a watch and you need to go find it who knows where. And that was probably another bad example, but I don't know. It was hard for me to get into, to the point where this is the only game I've done this, or well, my friend and I have done this. We just used a guide for the whole game. We wanted to see the rest of the story. We were curious to see how it ended. We literally just had a guide up on our other monitor and had the game up on the main monitor and just went through it. So I probably don't have the best, rationale for, I don't have the most credibility for this game, but I did not enjoy it personally. I'm gonna put this in the D tier. I think it's naturally, I think it was almost just as hard as Kyrandia because of how abstract the puzzles were. I think you would really struggle to solve this game without using one of the unfair methods of randomly guessing, trying literally everything, or looking at a guide. But I don't think it had the same atmosphere as Kyrandia did, where Kyrandia's atmosphere was fantastic. This one was, fine. Its art was fine. Music was, I think, pretty forgettable, and the characters, I did not really enjoy that much. So yeah, unfortunately, Dropsy is going to be low D tier. Not to say it's not a good game. If you appreciate that uniqueness of, you like the vibe of the game and you like that it's really abstract and you kind of have your own interpretation for each puzzle and you like using all your different characters and pets that Dropsy makes along the way, you may love this game. This may be an A tier game for you. But for me, it was very hard to get through. It was just not the style that I liked. Yeah, and I apologize for that if anyone's a big Dropsy fan here. All right, up next we have Full Throttle. Now, Full Throttle is another classic. I played the remastered. You're playing as Ben, the leader of the Full Throttle Polecats, a biker gang. Ben is a fucking badass. He is great. And the other main character, Mo, is also badass. She's dope. And you're basically playing to rescue or save your biker gang, and get Mo her life back, or get her out of trouble. It's fine. It's a classic. It's one of the LucasArts classics. I had problems with it. Two big ones being the racing area, which if you played this game, maybe you had a problem with it too. And then the terminal at the end of the game, and I'll explain both of those. So the racing, usually when there are action sequences and point and clicks, usually your actions don't really matter. Usually you'll do whatever and then it'll play the next cutscene. And didn't really matter if you won or lost the fight or the duel or the whatever, your action sequence, the game just progressed along. Full Throttle, you literally had to win these biker fights to progress the game. And it was pretty hard to control, and the mechanics felt really weird, and it wasn't really fun to do. I just wanted to play point and click, not like a racing game. Some people might have loved it. I appreciate more just straightforward, well done puzzles and stories and stuff like that in my point and clicks. So the racing was a little bit out there for me. Maybe I was just bad too. I could not win. I could not win those the bike races or the bike fights. We had to literally look up the mechanics because I wasn't sure if we just weren't supposed to be there, or if there was some secret to the fights that I wasn't getting. And I just kept losing. I don't know. It was really frustrating. So there was that, which knocked it down already for me. And then towards the end, there was a computer terminal that, in long story short, you had to control this aircraft through a computer terminal, and it had probably, if I had to guess, 100 different settings. Maybe less than that, maybe 80 or 100 different options, basically. And there was one that was the right answer, and all the other ones said this is non-functioning. I suppose if you were... The problem for me with that segment was that there were a lot of options. So to paint a quick picture, you were in an aircraft and it was skidding across the ground, about to fall off a cliff, and you had to obviously stop it. A bunch of the settings were deploy brakes, open flaps, deploy parachute, start engine, take off, stuff like that. There were a lot of things that could have worked. Probably way more than I even just mentioned. And the correct answer was just one of those options, and all the other ones were wrong, where you could really argue that any of them could have worked. And it took us a good 30 minutes to just find that, because there were so many options in the terminal, and it just felt it made it feel like you were just guessing, which I didn't really like. That aside, the rest of the game was good. It was quite short. I think it only took us 4 hours, I would say, maybe less. So for that reason, I think I'm going to put it in the top of C tier. Yeah. Oh, this feels right. Yeah, I mean, you have to acknowledge that it's classic. If it were just an indie game, it might go more down like here. It's a cool game. Some of the puzzles are fun, but yeah, I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. Characters are cool though. I will say that. All right, and last but not least, we have Sanitarium. I'm currently playing this game. I'm not done with it. I don't know how far into it I am. Well, my friend and I have a habit of whenever we're drinking and we're getting a little hammered, we'll play this game, which probably isn't the best way to experience this game, to be honest. But it's what we've done. We're maybe like 6 hours in. It doesn't seem like we're remotely close to the end. It is weird. It is a gritty game. It's hard. It is kind of hard to know what you even need to do. I kind of like it. My friend doesn't really, but I think it's interesting. I could see how people could not like this game very much at all. But I think it's cool so far. It's pretty old, but it's a pretty popular one. You might have heard about it, but yeah, it's a weird one. It's pretty dark and not straightforward. All right, so that's all the games. I'm going to take a quick look through and see if I want to adjust anything. Not everything is here. Primordia, yeah, we'll keep it up there. That's kind of a joke, but not really. I think it's just a tier above everything else on this list. If you haven't played it, you absolutely should. Yeah, this looks good. S tier looks good. I don't think anything else belongs on that tier. I could be argued to do this. I don't think it really matters what tier you have these in. I do think they're better than Strangeland, which is better than Loom. Beneath the Steel Sky, sorry, I think could be argued to be dropped down to B tier. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I will. I don't think it's on the same tier as Strangeland. I think it belongs more near Machinarium and Thimbleweed and Botanicula. I could do this. Oops. I could order these, however. Kyrandia and Botanicula. I think I'll keep Botanicula. No, I'll put Kyrandia above it. I think it had more content. Felt just as good, and yeah, it was longer and puzzles were better. Aside from that, Full Throttle, yep, I think that leads C tier. Genesis Noir, I could be tempted to put into D tier just because I personally didn't like it, and actually that's what I'm going to do. Because I think these were enjoyable, these three were not enjoyable. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm content with this. Yeah, I guess let me know what you think. If you think I'm crazy for putting Thimbleweed in the B tier and not S tier, I'd love to hear it. If you want to hear more about why I think Primordia is one of the greatest games ever made, I would also love to talk more about that. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. Enjoy the rest of your days, and yeah, take care.